NASCAR has been negotiating with the teams regarding the next charter agreement for the past 2 years now. With just a few more months to go under the current agreement, NASCAR and the teams are yet to finalize their agreement for next year. From the beginning, 23XI Racing has been very vocal about these negotiations. However, their most recent action has landed them in huge trouble with NASCAR. NASCAR had initially given all the teams a deadline that expired last Friday to sign the new charter agreement. However, 23XI Racing has decided that it's in their best interest to skip that deadline. This was a shocking move by the team and has now put their future in doubt. 23XI Racing claims it did not have an opportunity to fairly bargain. But we will give you every opportunity to be a part of one of the biggest NASCAR communities in the world. Just hit that subscribe button and we'll take care of the rest. Denny Hamlin and Michael Jordan entered into a partnership and started the 23XI Racing team, which made its debut in 2021. Since then, the team has expanded into 2 charters and could extend to a 3rd. But for that to happen, they need to sign the new charter agreement. The team released the following statement. 23XI decided to not meet a NASCAR-imposed deadline last night to sign charter agreements for its 2-car for 2025 to 2031. 23XI's position, as stated in a letter to NASCAR, is that we did not have an opportunity to fairly bargain for a new charter contract. We notified NASCAR what issues needed to be addressed in writing at the deadline, 23XI said in its Saturday statement. We are interested in engaging in constructive discussions with NASCAR to address these issues and move forward in a way that comes to a fair resolution while strengthening the sport we all love. At 23XI Racing, we remain committed to competing at the highest level, while also standing firm in our belief that NASCAR should be governed by fair and equitable practices, the team said Saturday. While NASCAR has refused to comment on the matter, it is understood that they're not happy at all with the team's decision to not sign the agreement. But not just NASCAR, even 23XI Racing's own driver is frustrated with the question mark concerning his future. I know my process has been kind of going hand in hand with the charter agreements, Bubba Wallace explained at the Quaker State 400. So it's frustrating to see where we're at because that impacts my life, my livelihood, and everything moving forward for my future. While only Bubba Wallace has voiced his concerns over his team not signing the deal, there will be several more employees in 23XI Racing who will not be happy with how the team has been handling these negotiations. There's now a question mark on the futures of all employees in 23XI Racing. Will the team continue next year? This is a question that the owners will have to own up to and answer. NASCAR legend Kevin Harvick also says that all the employees in 23XI will start to grow more frustrated as long as the agreement is not signed by the team. It's going to spread, Harvick warned. Through the shop, the employees, unless they address it and say, okay, we're going to sign it, or we're going to do this, or we're in, or we're out. But they have to address that situation or it's going to spread. It's going to spread a cancer through their shop like they've never experienced before. A few months back, Denny Hamlin made it clear what they were looking for in a new contract. They wanted permanent charters so all the teams could be more self-sufficient. In addition to this, the teams are looking for higher revenue and value of the charter. But now it seems as though NASCAR is intentionally delaying the process. Denny Hamlin believes that NASCAR is intentionally delaying the charter agreement to send the teams in a panic so they will accept whatever's on the table. While this seems unethical, NASCAR has every right to do that. At the end of the day, NASCAR is a private organization and a family business. So if 23XI does not sign the agreement, NASCAR will have no problem continuing the series without 23XI Racing on the grid. So far, we haven't heard much from NASCAR. However, just around a week ago, NASCAR's new president, Steve Phelps, decided to address his side of things regarding the charter negotiations. So this is one of the first opportunities I've had to talk about it, because we're not going to negotiate through the media, and we never have during this whole process, Phelps said. The teams have felt the need to do that, that's fine. Listen, do I think charters will be extended? I do. Do I think it's important that they're extended? I do. I think it's in the best interest of the sport that the charters are extended. Essentially, I won't get into what charters are selling for right now, but it's significantly more than it was 3, 4, 5 years ago, and way more than 9 years ago because they didn't exist. Although Steve Phelps did not mention the charter value, it is estimated that the charter is worth about $20 million at the moment. However, this value can increase if NASCAR permits permanent charters to the teams. Most other motorsport series have it. Phelps then continued to talk about what they had offered. We have offered the teams more money, he said. I won't get into what that looks like, but it is more money. Because it was important to the race teams that they have more money, and we agree with that. So our proposals for a while now have contained more money that would go to the race teams. It's important. The additional money will be a good plus point for the teams. However, they would still prefer permanent charters. But the latest reports have suggested that NASCAR has denied the request for permanent charters and is now looking for a 7-year charter agreement. Phelps then gave an explanation as to why they're not providing permanent charters. The charters are not franchises, Phelps said. Stick and ball sports, you buy a franchise, but a charter is not a franchise. With a charter, you're buying a guaranteed starting spot. You're buying some known fixed revenue, and you compete for the rest of the revenue. You get some level of governance. That's what a charter is and where it stops. It's not a collective of 1/30th and representing 1/30th of the sport and has a commissioner that makes decisions for all 30 franchises. That's the difference. But you go back to what a charter is supposed to be. Does it provide some level of governance? Yes. Does it provide some level of enterprise value if I decide to get out of the sport? It does. Does it provide fixed and variable revenue? It does. Despite setting a deadline for last Friday, Denny Hamlin decided that it was in his team's best interest to not sign that contract. Former NASCAR driver and Xfinity team owner Dale Earnhardt Jr. has given his thoughts on the situation between 23XI Racing and NASCAR. So 23XI believes that, but they can't get that growth potential unless NASCAR creates that value for them in this new agreement. That's why we're fighting, because that model makes sense to them. Although the current valuation of the Cup Team charter ranges from $20 to $25 million, a franchise model could see NASCAR reach new heights. I will not be shocked if the charters at one day down the road, maybe in a very short period of time, it might be 5 years, $125 or $150 million. That is to me reasonable. If you're an owner, that's a reasonable trajectory. They're not going to take away Michael Jordan's charters, never. They're going to try their hardest. Dale Earnhardt Jr. added, "Ever since the negotiations started, Hamlin has been pretty much the only team owner who has been vocal on it. The other team members have been silently talking with Hamlin, but have never addressed anything publicly. While it is true that NASCAR has decided to pay more to the teams under the new agreement, it may not be enough. Week after week, the stadiums are filled to see superstar drivers, such as Kyle Larson, Hamlin, and more race each other on the track. This is why Hamlin wants the teams to get a bigger share. But from what it looks like, NASCAR is not planning to budge. So far, 13 out of the 15 teams have signed the agreement. The only teams to not do so are 23XI Racing and Front Row Motorsport. Ideally, NASCAR should be talking to them and find some common ground. As it stands, there don't seem to be any conversations taking place between the two parties. However, we could see a meeting between the teams and drivers this weekend at Watkins Glen. Hopefully, they'll come to an agreement, and we'll see all 15 teams retain their spot in the grid. But if 23XI Racing still does not accept the results, they could take things to another level by filing a case in the court against NASCAR. But this would mean that 23XI will not be a part of the grid next year. It's going to be interesting to see how things turn out in the coming weeks. Do you think NASCAR is treating the teams fairly in these negotiations? Post your thoughts in the comments section below.